What a weekend for Florida State softball as they go 3-0 in the Tallahassee Regional in what might have been one of the most impressive coaching jobs of Coach Lonnie Almeida's career. The season's not anywhere close to over yet, but what they've done over the last couple of weeks, the last several weeks, or maybe a couple of months to really change the narrative around this team and change the trajectory of this team has been really, really impressive. And she won't get the credit for it because the team isn't a national seed. They've got to go on the road for supers. They're not thought of as a team that is going to make it to Oklahoma City or compete in Oklahoma City. And so she won't get the credit that she deserves, but her job, what she's done this year, has been as impressive as really anything else that she has gotten out of this Florida State Seminoles softball program. It's really been impressive to watch this team grow and develop and get into a situation like they put themselves in this weekend to host a regional, which ended up being a huge, huge advantage. We'll talk about all three games in just a moment, but it was a huge advantage for them to be able to host. Weather impacted so many different sites around the country this weekend, but nowhere more than Tallahassee, Florida, where a game on the East Coast was played until 3 in the morning on Saturday night, Sunday morning. And by being that host team, you set yourself up, you put yourself in a position to not have to be in that game, to get the rest that was required, to not absolutely tax your pitchers, which certainly had an impact on Auburn late in the championship game on Sunday. It was a big deal for the Noles to get that one seed, to host a regional, to be able to sleep in their own beds and go through their own normal routines. They get the win on Friday against Chattanooga, which we'll talk again more detail on all three games in a moment. But while they got a regular 3-2 win, Auburn and UCF played to a 17-run game in which both aces combined for over 200 pitches because of how crucial it is to stay out of the loser's bracket. How crucial it is to not have to lose your first game. And because of that, both aces for Auburn and UCF were taxed once Friday was done with. And then you add to that the fact that Auburn and UCF then met again late on Saturday night in a game that, had Auburn-Chattanooga gone a little bit later, a game that wouldn't even have happened until Sunday morning due to NCAA rules. It can't start a game after 11 p.m. And that game that started after 10 went until 3 in the morning. Both pitchers absolutely gassed. Both pitchers going well up into the triple digits of pitches in back-to-back days really left Auburn's pitching staff needing to look elsewhere when you got into that Sunday contest with Florida State. And Florida State, again, by doing what they needed to do, by taking care of business down the stretch, by going into Gainesville and beating the tar out of the Gators, by getting to the ACC championship, by keeping their RPI top 15, was able to host a regional. And that was a huge, huge difference. Earlier in the year, it did not look like the Seminoles had a chance to host a regional. They were not playing super well. They were figuring things out in the circle defensively, and they put enough together to be able to host, and that is a huge difference in their success. If this series happens at Auburn, and Auburn's the one seed, and UCF, Chattanooga, and we're all up there, do things go the same way? Does Florida State get that win in game one on Friday? And if they do, how does the series progress? But if they don't, are they able to come back and win 4 more games to end up advancing? It's daunting to think that anybody could lose game one and then come all the way back. It's been done. It's just hard to imagine how it gets done this year, especially with Florida State's limitations in the circle at this point due to injuries and other things. Chattanooga, the Bats struggled to get going until late in the game, and Janai Kerr has not been especially hot at the plate, but she was big on Friday, and she was on base multiple times, and her triple, you could see when she hit it, when she got to third base, and there were less than 2 outs, you could tell that it was a big deal. Everyone kind of came alive. Everyone kind of said, okay, we can get this run in and we can be down just 1. Hallie hits a ball that somehow drops. The Noles get 1 run, but aren't able to add any more. That's it. That's the end of that inning. In the next inning, a double play gets you out of the 6th, and you've got really the better part of your lineup up. You've got Harding, Michaela, Dev. You've got a really good grouping coming up. I think Beecham led that inning off in the 6th. And you just think, man, you've got the best part of your lineup up right now. It's now or never. We're going to score some runs, or it's going to be really tough in the 7th against a Chattanooga arm that was pitching very well. Kaylee gets a walk. Michaela singles. Harding with excellent base running to get to third base. If she doesn't run the bases this well, if she doesn't hustle and turn at second, Issa's sac fly just ends up being a long out. Kaylee scores to tie the game up. And up walks Devin Flaherty, the senior, the member of this team who's been on this team the longest, going back to 2020. And you felt like 2 outs, Florida State's last at bat, if they can get this, who else would you rather have up right now? Now, obviously, Florida State's got some freshmen that have been incredibly clutch. They have the record holder for the Women's College World Series final going 5 for 5 in a game leading off. They've got Michaela Edenfield, who obviously can hit the ball out at any time. But who else would you rather have up than Devin Flaherty in this situation? One of your best contact hitters, one of your hottest hitters since the last couple of months. They continue to show the stat where she was hitting in the low 200s to start the season, and since then has been hitting over 400. And as hot as anyone else might be, or as clutch as anyone else might be, or as much power as anybody else might have, I don't know that you want to put the ball in the bat in anyone else's hands at that moment. Now, it's a lot. You certainly could have gotten out there. Chattanooga scores in the top of the 7th and you lose. Who knows? It's a lot of pressure. But she delivered in a massive way. A triple that hits off the wall, scores a run, and the Noles take the lead. Again, not sure you'd want anybody else up in that situation. I'm glad that nobody else was up in that situation. A massive moment for Florida State to take the lead, and then Danley comes out and just goes 3 quick outs to get you the win. A liner, the shortstop, Issa jumped up. Hops are incredible. Kind of unfair that Florida State's gotten to go from Muffley to Torres there at shortstop, but we certainly will not complain. Danley closes it down. Royalty gave you a good 4 1/3 innings in this game. I thought both pitchers were really good, combined for 2 runs. I thought that this was a very good game. You couldn't score. You offensively struggled some. Chattanooga's got a good pitcher. We talked about that beforehand with Grayson, talked about it with Alex. I thought this was a good, gritty, gutty win. Sometimes you just have to gut these things out. Sometimes you just have to find a way to win. There were a lot of teams that got upset at some point during the regionals. A lot of top seeds lost games. UGA lost a game to Liberty. Clemson went 0-2 in a road regional. There are a lot of good teams. Omaha got some win. A lot of good teams. Florida State found a way to win. And again, coming up through that losers bracket this weekend would have been incredibly tough. So a great job to get that done. They move on to UCF, and the big inning has certainly been a consistent theme. Michaela talked about it last night in the press conference, trying to be a little bit more balanced, getting stuff kind of all over, not necessarily just relying on that big inning, but it has worked for them. They did it twice this weekend. A Ross sac fly scores a run, wild pitch scores Dev. Harding hits a double that is 1.5 feet from being a grand slam out to left field. Florida State scores 5 early, and UCF never really had a chance after that. Pitching was phenomenal. Mimi Gooden going 4 1/3. Just the 3 hits, 1 run given up, no walks. And then Danley comes in again. Talk about her maturity. Talk about her, the job that she's done. Really, really impressive. 2 2/3, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, closed it down for you again. This pitching staff is limited due to injury right now. And Danley came out and shut things down for you when you had to have it. You were up 4, but you were just in a spot where you couldn't let them start to add base runners on. They're too good offensively. You just couldn't do it. Danley let 2 base runners up in 2 2/3. Really, really was impressive. We'll talk about the Auburn game, then talk about Coach Almeida in just a moment. But last week, I told you about my friends over at the Mango Board. Quick reminder, they're literally just trying to get the word out there to buy more mangoes at your local grocer. The best fruit on earth. I got 3 when I was at Publix on Saturday. We've already finished them. It's Monday morning. My kids beg for them. We really can't keep them in the house just due to how quickly you have to go through them. The Mango Board is doing a ton to support Florida State athletics. So what I want you guys to do, you don't have to, again, click a link. You don't have to enter a code. Just grab a couple of mangoes the next time you're at Publix or your local grocer. If you tag me on social media, maybe we'll do a contest or something this week. But again, I told you this last week and we had some laughs about it, but you literally cannot be upset while you're eating a mango. It is physically impossible. I appreciate the Mango Board for their support of FSU athletics as well as this show. Make sure you grab a couple the next time you are at your local grocer. All right, so the Auburn game on Sunday, a little bit nerve-wracking. Auburn gets 2 runs in the second. They take the lead. I thought it was big that Florida State answered back immediately. It was kind of weird being the road team at home. I understand how that switches in regionals. I don't like that. I think if you're the home team, if you earn that, you should just go to the higher seed. I know there was talk about that changing. It hasn't, so oh well. Michaela hits a home run in the top of the 3rd that gets you the lead right back. I thought that was massive. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal for the Noles because the longer that Auburn stayed around, knowing that they had and could go to Pinta, although that didn't work later, I thought that was really, really big. You're pitching, you weren't quite sure how that was going to work out, what you were going to get out of girls. Michaela comes back and answers immediately, giving the Noles a 3-run lead. Now, an Auburn run ties it shortly after that. I thought that was kind of unlucky. I thought Florida State got the ground ball that they wanted, just weak contact, just not to the right spot. I thought that was Florida State benefited from that, as well. It wasn't just Auburn that kind of got lucky with it, but I thought that you threw the pitch you wanted, you got the result you wanted, and just happened to go into right field. Just didn't work out the way you wanted it to. Florida State ends up having a couple of innings where they get out of some jams. Danley came in and was really big again, her 3rd time into the weekend. She had to come in and kind of save you a little bit. Started the game. Royalty came in. Royalty goes out with an apparent injury. Mimi comes in, puts a couple of people on. They go right back to Danley. She finishes it out for you and was really, really impressive down the stretch. Got you out of a big situation, got you put herself into a big situation, and got you out of another one. She was massive. Florida State loads the bases, and Pinta comes in for Auburn, and you're kind of thinking, oh, man, this is trouble. They pinch hit Dak. She can't get anything. Next batter out, can't get anything. Harp had an excellent AB, just couldn't break through. Inside pitch, called a strike. Umpire was all over the place. Some are going to go for you, some are going to go against you. I thought the at-bat of the weekend was Kaylee Mudge. I thought as much as Issa's home run that we'll talk about, Beecham single, Harding single, we talk about all those things. Dev's triple. I thought the at-bat of the weekend was Kaylee Mudge. I could be wrong on this. Somebody will correct me in the comments if I am. I don't think Kaylee had a hit this weekend. I don't think she had one hit this weekend. I thought her at-bat to take the walk, though, was the biggest at-bat of the weekend. I don't think it was close necessarily. The way that she fouled pitches off, the way that she worked the count with 2 outs against Auburn's ace, Pinta was like an absolute robot this weekend. I thought that was the AB of the weekend. It obviously gave Florida State the lead, so it meant a ton on that side too, but you had to have that. You absolutely had to have that. And Florida State got it. Florida State gets the go-ahead, bases on balls, Mudge is on first, and the dam breaks open. Auburn's RBI to tie the game at 3-3, I thought was a little bit lucky. You got a little bit of luck back your way. Beecham single, weak contact, but placed it very, very well. Harding single just over the shortstop's head. Not necessarily a great hit. I mean, it worked out great, but I didn't think that either one of those were, they're swinging harder than they hit both those balls. And you just got the contact in the right place. I didn't think Pinto was bad by any means. I thought that Mudge had some strikes called balls called strikes. I thought the ump was kind of all over the place. I think she worked the walk. Auburn fans probably don't agree with that. But Pinto wasn't bad there. Beecham single, again, weak contact. Harding single, weak contact. Both of them plate runners. And, Issa comes up and on 3-0, I don't know. We have a Discord that we have a big softball chat. And if you're not part of that, comment below and I can get you the link, or the link is in the description. We have a big softball chat that we're all in there chatting during the games. And my kind of running joke is 3-0 green light every time. And Issa talked about this in the post-game press conference that T-Will given her the green light. And if he hadn't done, thankful that he did, because if he hadn't done that, we wouldn't have got it. But every 3-0 count is, hey, let's swing it. Let's swing the ball, swing the bat. Good things happen when you swing, she said. And so made the joke, and I don't know how much I meant it. At that point, you're already kind of feeling good. You're up a few runs. I think you're up 4 at that point. But man, when she swung, I dropped whatever I had in my hands. Super excited. The Noles go up 7, and at that point, you're through, right? You're going to win the game. You had 6 more outs to get, but you felt really, really good. Danley closing it out. Royalty battling. Coach Almeida talked about how she just gave everything that she had. Listen, there are so many comments on this pitching staff, and because Kat's not on it, I think people, this pitching staff is just this or that. This pitching staff is battled, and yeah, there is not a Kat Sandercock on this staff. And truth be told, there's not a lot of Kat Sandercocks in college softball right now. So yeah, there's not one on this roster because there's not a lot in the sport. But the way that this staff is battled, for all the complaints about the staff. You gave up 2 runs to Chattanooga. You gave up 1 run to UCF, who had scored 11 the night before on Auburn. And then you gave up, 4 runs to Auburn in the closer, right? And one of those, just a solo home run late when you already had the lead, when you're kind of just pitching to get outs at that point. So you gave up a total of, 7 runs on the weekend. Hard to be super upset with that. Hard to be super upset when you give up 7 runs over 3 games. You're averaging 2 and change a game. You're going to win a lot of games if you're giving up about 2 runs a game. The competition gets better going from here, but I thought this staff was really, really good. Auburn, UCF, they scored a lot of runs in games that weren't Florida State. Obviously, they scored 17. Auburn absolutely put it on Chattanooga to score a ton of runs, to run rule them on Saturday. There were tons of runs scored in this series, and Florida State, for the most part, this staff held it down. Offense came alive when it had to, gutted out a win against Chattanooga, and then had some fun against UCF and Auburn. I said this before, and I'll close out with this. What they've done, they've been so banged up this year. And there are so many narratives around this team, and some of them are from FSU fans, some of them are from supporters even, that this team just doesn't have it. They're not even going to host a regional. They're not going to make a regional. They don't deserve it, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to do this in the ACC. Listen, there have been a lot of highs and lows on this team, but they have battled. And to really rely on a couple of freshman pitchers because of how injured others have been, right? I haven't seen McKenna out there in a long time. Royalty being pretty banged up. Mudge coming off of a surgery, to start the year. Kerr was banged up at times of the year. You lost Edenfield for a few weeks. Harding, I think, has battled through some stuff. It seems like not out there in right field all the time. I haven't confirmed that or not, but then just the regular wear and tear of the season, just being tired from the season, right? Like the girls that aren't necessarily injured, but just banged up from the year. They've done an impressive job battling through that, right? And the Syracuse series, did that go like you wanted? No. Did you feel a little dejected when you lost to Duke? Yes, you did. But at the end of the day, they finished second in the ACC, both regular season and in the tournament. Duke's a good team that's going to a super regional and has a great chance to go in and make the College World Series. I think they play Missouri, who barely got through their regional. And so you lost to a Duke team that you probably should have beaten, both in the regular season and in the tournament. You had a good chance to do both, but you ended up losing the conference to a good Duke team, and Florida State was the second best ACC team, and I think they've proven that. They're the only other ACC team that makes the Supers. They did what they needed to do to defend home field. You send your seniors out with a very memorable win at Joe and Graf, and man, they've battled. They've met. I don't think they've met the expectations that the program has. But every year, when you look at a season and think about what is realistic for our team, where should this team get? And it was pretty evident early in this year that this did not look like a team that necessarily you were penciling into Oklahoma City, and you were saying that they're a guaranteed lock for OKC. Now they're 2 wins away from it, so I'm not saying they can't get there by any means, but it didn't look like a team that you were penciling in to, well, rematch with Oklahoma again. This is a team that's going to the final series of the Women's College World Series. They still may do that. Obviously, it wouldn't be against Oklahoma if they do. But it looked like a team that was going to have to battle and going to have to struggle. You didn't have that consistency in the circle. You didn't have that consistency defensively. They were going to have to work for it. And they did that. They absolutely did that. And my thought was this team needs to win a regional. This team needs to prove that they're a top 15-ish team in the country. And then from there, whatever happens past that is gravy. I don't think I looked at this team and said, like, if they don't get to Oklahoma City, this season was a failure or anything like that. And I talked about this earlier. This is one of the most impressive coaching jobs that I think Lonnie Almeida's ever had. And it's not, if they don't beat Oklahoma, and we'll preview that later in the week. If they don't beat Oklahoma, people are not going to give it the attention and the credit that it deserves. But when you think about the injuries that this team has gone through, how they lost Michaela and really didn't skip a beat once she was out, which who expected that? She was having the best hitting year of her career. When they lost McKenna and haven't had her for however long. They lost Royalty through a big part of this year, and then Royalty's been pitching banged up, and so they've done it with a bunch of freshman pitchers. When you consider all of that, this is one of the most impressive coaching jobs that she's ever done. And again, it's not, she didn't win the ACC, not a lock to go to Oklahoma City, not the pitching prowess that you're used to. But when you consider really what this team has done and really what she's done to manage this staff, this roster, emotions, it would have surprised you if Florida State did this, but it would never surprise you if a team just throws their hands up and says, I'm over that. I'm done. This is not our year. We're moving on. But that's not what this team did. And again, it would surprise you if a Florida State team did that, especially under Coach Almeida. But there were fans who were doing it. There were supporters who were saying, man, this team stinks. I'm over it. I'm done. And this team never quit. This team gutted it out and found a way to host a regional, to beat their arch rivals. Shoot, they were down by 6 in a game at home against Florida and found a way to come back in that. They ended up losing it later, but this team never quit. And I don't think they're going to quit when they get to Oklahoma. And I'll just be real. The task to go up to Norman and win 2 games is daunting. No one goes in there and wins. There shouldn't be a lot of pressure. I think the team understands how difficult it would be to go in and win at Norman, and so go play. Go play your game and see what happens. Oklahoma's not the same team they were last year. Florida State's not the same team they were last year. See what can happen. We'll preview that later. I think this is one of the most impressive coaching jobs that Coach Almeida's ever had. I'm probably biased. There's probably some recency affecting it, but you were so happy for the players, Mudge and Royalty and Flaherty and Harding and others that Belva, others that are seniors and got to finish their careers in Tallahassee the right way. And we'll see what happens from there, right? We'll preview it. We'll talk about Oklahoma later. But, man, what a weekend for the Noles. What a weekend for Coach Almeida. She was emotional talking to Alex Powers later. I cut that up and put it on social media if you want to go check that out there. But man, she was great. Chris Nee of Noles 247 also got the press conference. You should go watch that after with Michaela, Coach Almeida, and Issa talking after the game. Just a really impressive weekend for the Noles. A lot of people didn't think they were going to host. A lot of people didn't think they could find a way to win this regional. And I don't want to say it was done with ease because some of the games were pretty tough. Especially Friday night's game was pretty tough, and then last night was tough until really things busted open there at the end. But then when you look at it and you look at the fact that Florida State outscored all three opponents 18-7, they kind of had their way with this regional. Had things not gone super well in the first game against Auburn, you had a chance in the second game anyway. So man, a ton of fun. This team is a ton of fun to watch. They've satisfied the expectations that I think I had for them this year. And man, if they can pick up 2 more wins, then we'll celebrate like crazy. I think that Florida State's in a good position this week. I think there's some confidence. I think that, Oregon kind of gave Oklahoma everything they wanted. I think Florida State and Oregon are similar teams. I think Florida State's better, and Oregon was able to kind of give Oklahoma everything they wanted. So maybe Florida State can go and steal one, create some drama, and maybe force a game 3, maybe get into a situation where Oklahoma starts to tense up. There should be no pressure on Florida State this week. Maybe that plays to their advantage. Maybe there was some pressure last year. Cats last year, you got to win this. You got to shut it down. Maybe this year, the pressure's off and they just play loose and have some fun. And if they can swing the bat like they have and have some of those big innings, give me one of those big innings, those 7-run innings in the first. Let's start out with that and go from there. So, all right, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I wanted to share some thoughts on this weekend. If you want to join that Discord, if you want to jump in where we just kind of talk about FSU softball all the time, the link is below. If you have any questions, hit me up on social media. I appreciate you guys, and can't wait to break down the Oklahoma series later in the week. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.